Thanks, Jordan. I think my audio is working, so forgive me, I've got a PowerPoint, so I hope you'll tolerate that. So I just want to run through a quick outline of where we are, where we're trying to get to, and what you can do to help us. So if my OctoQ is working, I'll just run you through this. There we go. So what I wanted to do is just share with you like where we are. And as you can see from that graphic there, we've got a lot to do. Our kind of carbon emissions need to fall off a cliff. And just today, we've seen a fairly scary statistic shows that at the moment, we're on track to probably emit over 110% of the emissions that we need to in the world if we're going to stay to 1.5 degrees. We do know, the good news is that there is enough wind out there in the world to kind of deliver on a lot of that gap. So I think there's a lot that we need to do to hit 1.5, and you can see those drops and those colours that much needs to be done. So I think the way to think about this is that every job is probably going to have a shade of green in it. And so whether you're a finance minister of a country, whether you're a journalist, or even a game studio developer, thinking about the role of the environment will be critical if we're going to hit that transition. So the next slide is just to showcase with you the fact that there is a lot of good stuff that's happening. So I'm just going to hit click here. And I was just away last week in TED Ed in Scotland, and Maersk have announced they're going to build 10 boats that will run on green hydrogen and spend $1.4 billion on it, which is extraordinary. And if you can see that orange arrow, it just shows the collapse in the cost of solar PV, which has gone down from somewhere in the region of 378 per kilowatt hour down to $60. And I think what we're seeing is this massive transition. EV is overtaking diesel. And I think this makes sense both for our planet and for our wallets, in that things will cost less if we get it right. And so I think what we're seeing is this transition coming at pace, and it's a race to zero that we all need to be in. And so what I want to share next is that what really matters is the speed, because pace is everything. So winning slowly on climate is just simply another way of losing, which is what a brilliant writer and thinker wrote in The Guardian this weekend, Bill McKibben, who I think is amazing. So this decade, the next 9 years, will really determine if we are going to live in a safe planet or an unsafe planet. And at the moment, we're on track to really kind of go above and beyond what we can afford to. And so a lot of people talk about scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, and that's all about your carbon footprint, about what you as a company do, what your supply chain does, and then what your gamers do. But there's also something for me around scope 4, and that for me is around your leadership and how what you do can have ripple effects outside of all those different scopes. And I think that's why this industry is so interesting to us. So the next slide is going to be the question, so why are we working with the video gaming industry? Years ago, I had quite a few furrowed brows, but I think a lot of this comes down to conversations that inspired me with Jude Auer from Playmob and Lou there, and also Trista Patterson, who you'll hear from shortly. And I don't think we would be doing this if it wasn't for some of their thinking. And I think there are 4 key reasons why we are doing this work with the video gaming industry. So, number 1, the reach is unbeatable. We heard it from Joe. But just the metrics around what the video gaming industry can do is extraordinary. And it's like every country, everywhere, is touching and playing games. But I think we already know that. Number 2, I think it's really interesting just in terms of how it's accelerated so fast over all other mediums. And I was really struck by some of the stats that Yuki and Isti shared with me yesterday that just shows how much it's accelerated over the past past year with lockdown for sure. But it's an industry that is the world's biggest entertainment medium, which is why it's so powerful. Next, I think this is another interesting thing that's made me think about the industry, which is it's just a chance to tell a different story. And this is just a clip, I think, from Vox, which I found, which is there's a narrative around the video gaming industry about people's perceived negative contributions, but getting involved in the environment is a chance to change the narrative and be famous for doing good in the world. And I think that is the opportunity for the video gaming industry. And finally, number 4, here you'll see a picture of somebody on the right. That's Jimmy, who's my son. And I spend a lot of time just seeing what he does, because I'm a curious father, and just noticing his behaviors on Minecraft, FIFA, Roblox, Gran Turismo, and how he plays games to connect with his friends or characters or create new challenges. And I think there's something interesting for me about how this medium has captured attention in a way that I think is really curious for me. And so I have a lot of my son in my thinking when I go about this work, and how I can really help him not just enjoy the escapism of games, but to see whether there's authentic opportunities to make a difference through play. So there's some of the rationale. And what have we been doing then? So our work to date is, I'd say, in 2 years, pretty good. More to be done for sure, but we're making great progress. So we've really made progress on new tools for decarbonisation. Some research that came through just from Microsoft to get new baselines on where is the industry, what is the wattage that's used by different games on different mobile phones. The activations in play, you'll hear about that from Deb and the Green Game Jam. But we really did an amazing job this year on restoration and also working on marine issues with console as well as mobile. And I think what I find the value in this is it's a new opportunity for a new discussion, to troubleshoot on info gaps and to build out a new community of practice of like-minded people looking to make a difference. And I think we've also seen some great growth with new studios joining and new associate members that you'll hear from Siri after me. And I think the China breakthrough is fascinating. So we're doing a lot of work with Timmy, 37 Interactive, but also new conversations with other part of the Chinese industry that I think will go a long way next year. So here's a quick graphic just to showcase what we've done this year. So these are the headlines on the impact report we're just finalizing right now. So members are doing really good stuff. So 50 different actions being undertaken. Over 50% of the members are committing to net zero, and we're ratcheting that each year. And I think as I've mentioned, the Green Game Jam, we really had some great contributions, and we're also going to be doing stuff at Glasgow at COP, South by Southwest and GDC. And the annual impact report that will be out at the beginning of next year will showcase the difference that we've made. But behind those statistics, I think there's also something that I would take away, which I think I've kind of summarized as the 4 C's. I think for me, the win here is around culture and trying to get a shift in thinking around studios and trade bodies about the climate not being additional, but central. I've mentioned China, but I'll mention it again. What we do there, I think, could be transformational. I think the climate fires, we've just got a report coming out next month. I think that really woke people up, particularly in the US, about how climate isn't a tomorrow problem, but a today problem. And I also think the collaboration possibilities is just really good to see. So I feel like it's an open door where you can learn from. I think the question is what next? And what next is the following. And I think what we're trying to do now is just deepen. We're 2 years old, so we're starting to walk, but we want to build out a secretariat and a new team to drive this agenda. We want to activate to build out the Green Game Jam, which will be bigger, better, and bolder. And I think the issue for me again is around leadership. And the more the video gaming industry can lead, the more that others will follow. And so we've had a really fascinating conversation with the music industry, who are looking what the video game sector is doing and asking what more could they do. And I also think it's a chance for the video gaming industry to get a front and ahead of where the world's at, and to really kind of show a drive and a sense of possibility. And so, I mean, my takeaway slide on this is really this one, which is like the only limit to this work is our own imaginations. And you'll hear from this from Sega, for me, I feel like the race has to be so fast, we can't wait for the perfect. We have to really get started. And momentum builds momentum. Leadership attracts followership. And the way this industry can really be transformative is to really think about what difference it can make, not just within its studios, but within the 2.7 billion people that play the games every single day. And so I feel like the video gaming industry has enormous power and enormous responsibility. And I think this challenges all of our challenges, not something we can other to somebody else. So I do think what we can do is limitless. And so my final slide is just to really give you a chance just to join us, basically. You'll hear more about that a bit later in the call. And to say thank you for UKEY for offering us this event to speak about what we've done, but also to the 30 different Alliance members that have stood up, really worked the internal machinery to get a yes when no felt like the more obvious answer, to have the patience of working with us on commitment letters that have been more of a game of ping pong, where we kept asking you to do more, do more, do more. And each year we say to you, that's great, but what more can you do? And so I think, Jordan, I'm going to hand it back to, actually, I'm not, I'm going to hand it over to Tristan now. So I just want to end this by saying, this is the Alliance. We're a nice bunch of people that are happy to answer questions. And now I wanted to really hand it over actually to hear from the industry. And I've got Trista Patterson waiting that will come up and talk about, in a session with Alan, and then also with Nicolas from Ubisoft, about what they're doing and why this is interesting from where they sit from the industry. So you've heard the UN guy talk about what he thinks is important, and now you'll hear from the sector itself. So I'm going to hand over to Trista. Thank you.